Hi, I'm Scott and I have a confession. Right now, all I want is a brand new Samsung Galaxy smartphone. But I'm trapped in the Apple ecosystem. I'm definitely going to have to say goodbye to this Apple Watch and a few $100 worth of bands. Hopefully there's a decent replacement. Obviously there's iMessage. There's FaceTime. I have AirPods Pro. I have an iPad which seamlessly syncs with my iPhone. Find My. There's also CarPlay, which has always been much more reliable than Android Auto. I use my iPhone to control Apple TV. I also have AirTags, Apple HomeKit, and maybe the most important thing is my Mac. That's right, the Switch is especially difficult for Mac users. So stick with me throughout this series, and we're gonna see if I can replace this top-of-the-line iPhone with this top-of-the-line Samsung device, and hopefully without losing too many features, services, or my sanity. So I really want to make my intentions clear too. I don't want people to think I have a specific outcome in mind. I honestly don't know how this is going to play out. And I'm doing this because I genuinely want to switch. Hey, are you biting? And I'm trying to justify it in every way, shape, and form. And ultimately, the decision is going to be made based on sacrifices. It's based on how much I'm gaining by switching to the Samsung versus how much I'm losing by taking the iPhone away from the Apple ecosystem. If it was just the phone, I would have switched. And here it is, the Samsung Galaxy S25 Ultra. Exciting. S Pen. Look at that camera array. Look at that screen. I already customized it too a little bit. It's been so long since I've had an Android device. Wow. The screen is gorgeous. And even at the beginning of this video, I'm going back and forth. It's very hard. My instinct is like I should just stay with Apple because of all the ridiculous amount of conveniences, all of the different ways it works with the Mac, the fact that I have like every Apple product. But then again, I like to be different. Hey, stop biting me, dude. I like to be different. I want my device to look and feel completely different than everybody else's. Everybody's got their iPhone, and I like to be different. I want to customize. I want to make the device my own. I want to endlessly tinker with my device rather than having that boring iOS screen staring at me all the time. I already went ahead and customized it just the way I like it. Yeah, I like to customize as soon as possible, so I got rid of the Samsung launcher. And for those of you who don't know, that's the home screen of the device. Unlike Apple, you could just change it, so I could go to Nova Launcher and do a lot of cool things, like you see my bottom dock here? Oh, look, there's more apps. Love that. I can open YouTube Music here. Well, that's great. But what if I flick it up? Oh, now it opens YouTube. And you know what? I really like having live wallpaper. So there you go. It's so easy to customize this thing. I love it. You know what? I get tired of that. I just downloaded Niagara Launcher. And now Niagara Launcher is installed on my phone. Completely different experience. There's also apps like Tasker, which can create crazy automations on your device. Really amazing stuff. I could literally just be tinkering with this thing all day, and I have in the past. I mean, the last time I had an Android device, all I used to do was play around with it and change the look and the feel and literally everything. And it was almost like a part-time hobby. I'm constantly changing the way my device looks and feels and operates. And it's almost like a little bit of a distraction, to be honest. But then again, all these cool little customizations and tweaks often aren't as good as all the conveniences you get by using an iPhone or an iPhone along with Apple devices. I have to come up with a plan. I need to go through all of the things that I'm going to be losing by ripping the iPhone out of the Apple ecosystem and replacing it with the Samsung. I have to see if it's something I can replace and how difficult or expensive it is to replace, how much I prioritize those features and services, and at the end of the day, if it's worth it to switch. So I'm going to take all of these categories and end up splitting them into different episodes. What always took me back to iPhone was iMessage. iMessage. This has always been huge. Apple's always prevents me from leaving because of iMessage. It is the single best messaging platform you can possibly use. Sorry, Android users, but it just is. But Google Messages uses RCS, and now that Apple supports it, Cross-device messaging is possible again. The fact that this is even possible is what made me think about switching again. But is it good enough? And yeah, iMessage was such a big thing, but now that RCS is implemented, accepted, and on most people's devices, even if they have an iPhone, I think I'm going to be okay with that. Are you trying to eat an apple? Do dogs eat apples? Is this foreshadowing with Apple and iPhone? I feel like there's probably a better joke I could have made, but whatever. Mac. Yes, if you're an iPhone user and a Mac user, it makes switching so much more difficult. The iPhone and the Mac work together in perfect harmony in a symbiotic relationship that's just seamless and beautiful. You have the same exact iMessage on both the iPhone and the Mac, the same exact Photos app, Notes app, everything syncs beautifully and seamlessly. You can copy text on the Mac and paste it to the iPhone, and vice versa. You can answer calls on your Mac through your iPhone. You can take a bunch of photos, videos, files, and airdrop them from your iPhone to your Mac. I can unlock my Mac using my Apple Watch. And maybe the biggest one for me and the one that's causing me the most anxiety is the Mac Files app. I stick every single one of my Mac's files in the Files app in iCloud so I can access every single one of them from my iPhone. If I need any file at all that's on my Mac, I can look it up on my iPhone, any place, anywhere. That's the same thing. I'm going to have to make peace with the fact that my Mac and my phone are not going to work in harmony anymore. I'm going to have to ditch the Apple Watch and all my expensive bands for a Pixel Watch or a Galaxy Watch, which I know I'm not going to like as much, other than the fact that everybody has an Apple Watch. So again, I like to be different. The Apple Watch is another extension of the iPhone, and they just, again, work beautifully and seamlessly with one another. This watch is like space-age technology, and nobody else has been able to top it. Just how easy it is to talk into your watch and send texts. Just the way the iPhone apps work with the watch, the way Siri works with the watch, everything is just magical. Even the way the bands connect to the watch, and there's so many available, it's ridiculous. And I'd be giving up a few $100s in Apple Watch bands too. Now, a good friend of mine had an old Galaxy Watch lying around, so I'm going to test that as well and see if it's possible to replace it. Or maybe I'll need to get a Pixel Watch. I don't know. And then there's apps. Let's not forget about the apps. In the past, when I've had Android devices, a lot of times the apps are not as good quality as they are on iPhone. Unfortunately, a lot of developers prioritize iPhone first and then get to updating the Android app second. Sometimes there's apps available for iPhone that are not available on Android. And sure, I know that Android has multiple app stores, especially on a Samsung. You have the Google Play Store, the Samsung Galaxy Store. There's other app stores. You can sideload apps. But then again, it's not as important as having essential apps by, businesses, your work, your banking institution, or things that are very important to you be both available and recently updated and of amazing quality. So hopefully that one's not an issue. And I'm going to have to deal with Android Auto, which has always been an issue. So now, this may not seem big to you, but I use CarPlay every time I'm in my car to navigate, to listen to audio, to make phone calls or text messages. The last time I had an Android device, it did not work well with my car and was constantly crashing. Now, this is 3-4 years later, so hopefully that's improved, but it may not. I'm actually very concerned with Android Auto, so that's a big one too. So many accessories too. I have AirPods, which can switch seamlessly between all of your Apple devices. I use these for my iPhone, my iPad, my iMac, and I use it for Apple TV, and I constantly switch them around. How well will it work on the Samsung device? I know Apple doesn't have an app, so you cannot even see the settings or control any settings through an Android app. Now, I know I'll be able to listen to audio and make phone calls, but how well will these actually work with the Samsung device, and will I need to replace it? I use Apple TV. And when I lose this remote, which is lost all the time, I can use my iPhone as an exact replacement. Or I can AirPlay photos and videos or just screen mirror my entire phone right to the Apple TV. Now, my Apple TV is plugged into an Android TV because, of course, it is. And this isn't a huge one, but it still adds up.
I have AirTags. That's a small problem.
And I have an iPad Pro. This is basically a huge version of my iPhone that literally mirrors the entire device, except I can't take it with me and make phone calls. On the plus side, though, I will retain an iOS device. And then there's my smart home.
And I have smart light switches and smart garage doors, smart sprinklers. Everything in my house is smart, and I've been just tweaking and tweaking everything. Is it okay for dogs to eat apples, by the way? This is my new puppy. I don't have much experience.
I will mention that I have a couple of Nest Hub displays and a bunch of Google Home Minis scattered around my entire house anyway. But I do use HomeKit, and a lot of these things are so much more reliable and seamless when using Siri on my phone or on my watch to control my smart home. And there's some things like having Siri open my garage door, which I haven't been able to duplicate on Google successfully.
So the point is that I always switched back and forth over the years, and whenever I went back to Apple, it was because of all the conveniences, iMessage, the Apple Watch, how well it works with your Mac. And the reason I always go back to Android is because I love customizing. I get so sick of staring at Apple's home screen. Okay, you're literally eating my apple. And yeah, I just kind of get upset that when I'm using an iPhone, I'm using Apple's device the way Apple wants me to have it. And yeah, when I use an Android device, I can customize it to my heart's desire. I can make it my own. It's my device. It works the way I want it to. I could customize absolutely everything in the phone. The home screen, the lock screen, automations, routines, anything I want. As where Apple, I'm using the device the way they want it to look, the way they want it to behave. And there's so many limitations. And I always end up going back and forth, which is just crazy.
So over the course of this series, I'm going to go through all of these apps, devices, services, functionality, everything that I'm going to be losing by removing the iPhone from the Apple ecosystem, and see how much of it I can replace using the Samsung Galaxy S25 Ultra and what I'm willing to lose. I'm going to constantly be weighing out the positives and negatives, and hopefully there's no deal breakers that screw the entire thing up for me. Because ultimately, when all is said and done, my goal is to be able to walk away with this Samsung device as my main smartphone. And I really don't know if I'm going to be able to do it.
So stick with me on this journey, and we're going to find out what my decision is. I don't think I'm going to know until the very end.
On the next episode, we're going to see if I can switch from iMessage to Google Messages now that RCS is supported. This is going to be a big one, so make sure to subscribe to follow along. And thanks so much for watching.